Do we?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first live from the Blue Seats live NHL Trade Deadline special. We've got a couple people coming up in a bit, but right now we are here. I'm producer JL. This is my face. I am not a ghoul. Do not be alarmed. Do not be scared. Welcome.
We'll leave that up to everybody else to figure out.
Yeah. Put a sock in it, old man. Speaking of old men.
Put a sock in it?
Speaking of old men, maybe. Who knows? But
Fair enough.
You threw me off, Dave. Damn. Anyways, joining us today is the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who runs everything and apparently is in a luxury townhouse right now, Mr. Dave. How the heck are you, my friend?
I am alive and breathing. That's bedtime was a little rough with the girls, but I'm here. I believe both are down. My wife is making sure, hopefully, that they don't barge. Well, the old one doesn't barge in. That actually happened to her last night while she was. She does a online course for, I think, some CUNY, and I'm drawing a blank right now. And I wasn't home, and my oldest just barged in while she was on a call with one of her students. So she's running interference. I'm good. That was a whole rant on absolutely nothing. So I'm going to stop talking.
Well, thank you for the unnecessary filler, but thank you, Dave. And joining us from the 30 On Broadway podcast, he's a friend of the show, friend of the blog. He is part of the blog. It's Nick. Welcome again, Nick. I can see that you seem to have a dislike for Chris Kreider, but how the heck are you?
We didn't do anything stupid, so that's always good. So, trade deadline comes and goes, and I am a little bit sad that Chris Kreider is still with us, but, once the draft comes around, I'll be a lot happier because he'll be gone. But, yeah, doing all right.
Well, geez, the way you make that sound, he's still with us. Like we should have shipped him off into like a cinder block or something into the ocean.
You make it sound like he should be executed. Damn, dude.
Yeah, the blog father. Look at this
guy. I'm not gonna say that I would enjoy any of those because that would make me seem very callous and cold. But if we shipped him off to Hockey Siberia and Buffalo, I would definitely have a smile.
There's absolutely no way Buffalo is not on his no trade list. I mean, come on. I've been to Buffalo twice. It is one of the most depressing. No offense to anybody who's from Buffalo. It's a very depressing city. At least I went.
I actually take offense to that because I actually like Buffalo. And my buddies
like Buffalo.
I like Buffalo. It's not that bad of a city. I don't know why.
And Gen Z loving to just I think be contrarian to everything.
No, it's not contrarian. It's my actual opinion, David. Goodness gracious.
Sorry, I got an itch.
I think I described Buffalo as hockey Chernobyl. So I mean, I'm gonna I'm gonna stay with that as my thought process.
Well, I'll just say this, and then we'll move on with the stuff that we're actually going to talk about here. Organization-wise, yes, it's hockey Chernobyl, but the city itself, not that bad.
Yeah, really I hate the Buffalo Bills. I don't like Terry.
Well, we're Jets fans, of course.
I
Bills. Come on.
Well, it's not even that I hate the Bills so much. I hate their fans. They haven't won anything. They're 4-time Super Bowl losers, which is just incredible because the odds say that you should get at least one.
I don't even think JL was born for that.
I was not actually. Funny enough,
I was making a joke. I didn't mean wow. All right then.
Well, what was there? The last one that they appeared in was what, 93? That was the year I was born, or 92, 93, just about, or 94. So I was
92, 93, 94.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was alive for like 1.5 of those. But anyways, that's beside the point, even though the Bills do suck. Today,
Don't let Luker
they-
hear you say that.
you know, if he is listening, I'm sorry, I do not like the Bills. But
I
anyways,
like Josh Allen.
I also hate how much I like Josh Allen.
Like,
I tell that to
I
my
like-
Yeah,
friends.
he's a very likable dude. He
Yeah,
really
I,
is.
t- I tell my friend in Buffalo, I say, I hate how much I like this guy. And he's like, oh, well, you should be a Bills fan. And I say, shut up.
You
Anyways,
know who else
all
is
right.
very likable? Chris Kreider.
No,
He is. He is a
No,
He's
very
very
likable
likable.
gentleman.
no, he's
And
not.
Chris Kreider was not dealt at today's trade deadline, but other players were.
I'm a little bit surprised at that. Even with the injury, I am surprised he wasn't traded because it
No, I was
seems
too.
like everything is heading in that direction. And even with the injury, teams will just let him sit or put him on LTIR and return for the playoffs. I mean, it's an upper body injury, so he can skate.
Well, it's probably
I'm a
more.
little bit surprised. He would have gotten a haul at this deadline.
Oh, yeah. But I think, though, it was probably just a mix of the uncertainty of the upper body injury and also like the back spasms that seem to have been bothering him
Yeah.
for most of the season. So I think that kind of played a hand in it because, I mean, and we'll get into it. Some of the returns that were coming through today were actually really absurd. Like, I mean, just,
Mhm.
but let's get right into it now that we're pretty much talking about it. So last 2 days, mostly the last 2 days of this trade deadline have been sort of, it's really the door just flew open, honestly. And honestly, you can, if you want to speak Ranger wise, it kind of started with the JT Miller trade, at least for New York, that kind of opened the door to a lot of things. Gustav Nyquist was traded from Minnesota to from Nashville to Minnesota. Then you got Seth Jones going to Chicago, Trent Frederick going to Edmonton. This one, Tyler in our circle doesn't like. It's Oliver Bjorkstrand and his boy Yanni Gord were sent to Tampa Bay, which
They're going all in. Tampa.
Oh
really,
yeah. And then
Good for them.
you have honestly, yeah. I mean, they're not in our division, at least the Rangers division. So maybe we'll see them at some point in the playoffs, given that the Rangers do make the playoffs. Knock on wood. Nico Sturm to Florida, Brian Dumoulin to the Devils, Chris Drieger to Winnipeg, then Riley Smith.
You were about
of
to say
course.
Chris Drury.
No, I was going to say Drieger. I was having trouble trying to figure out how to pronounce the words. Geez, Dave, come on. Is that how you think of me, man? I'm just going to mess up words like that
Yes.
for no reason.
Yes.
No, absolutely not. No,
honestly, and Nick's name is throwing me off because the whole thing is it's a used Trojan, not a regular Trojan. I mean,
yeah, well, it's got to be somewhat family friendly. Come on,
True.
Riley Smith
though?
Right. Yeah, well, that's up for you and Rob to figure out. You made Rob say the F word the last time on here, and it kind of.
I did not. That was not me. He said it of his own accord.
That is true.
I was just shocked because he's so calm and collected, and usually
I
it's
know.
me that loses their minds.
I know. Speaking of someone losing their minds, Riley Smith. He had some interesting comments. We'll maybe touch on at some point. He goes to Vegas. Carson Soucy from Vancouver to the Rangers. And then just some of the bigger ones, Brock Nelson going to Colorado, and also in that Callum Ritchie going back to the Islanders, Oliver Shillington going to Anaheim, Dylan Cousins, who was traded this morning with defenseman Dennis Gilbert for Josh Norris and Jacob Bernard-Docker. And then obviously you want to talk some bigger trades like Tanev going to Winnipeg, Scott Lawton for some reason going to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think me personally, the biggest one was Brad Marchand. Well, you could say Mikko Rantanen to Dallas and then him signing an extension. But
that was by far the biggest trade.
Right. But I think just in terms of, I guess, impact, so to speak, I think Marchand going to the Panthers was probably the biggest trade. So there was a lot that went on today. And I know that Nick here had written down some thoughts. So let's jump right into that because I think that's a good jumping point. So there were some obvious winners and losers today, and you could clearly tell who the losers were just by looking at some of the trades. So Nick, tell me, you have this list. And I guess Dave and I, I'll react live to it at least. Dave kind of reacted a
I
little
need
bit
to
in
pull it
chat.
up on my phone because I need to visualize it. I'm a visual guy.
So just go ahead.
All right, we're gonna start with the losers because I always feel like pointing out the losers is always more fun.
Yeah.
Number one, the Los Angeles Kings. They have been to the playoffs the last few years. They have been eliminated by the Edmonton Oilers the last few years because they don't have offense. And Rob Blake's idea this year was to go out and get Andrei Kuzmenko, who I like, good player, but not going to put you over the top, is not going to give you that boost that's going to get you by Edmonton in the first round. I mean, Rob Blake's been the GM in LA for like 5 or 6 years now. He has no playoff series wins. So I think to go by this deadline and not address your most glaring need, which was offense, was a big mistake. And then it looks even worse, in my opinion, when you consider the offseason. They moved Pierre-Luc Dubois to Washington for Darcy Kemper, and Dubois has had a renaissance. He's back to being on pace to being a 60-point player after he was such a disappointment in LA. I just, when you look at everything in a vacuum for me, Los Angeles had the worst deadline of anybody. Just because when you're on track to play Edmonton again in the first round and get eliminated by Edmonton again in the first round, it just I don't know how he'll be able to keep his job after this. And to be perfectly honest, if it wasn't for Ron Francis being a total clown show in Seattle, I think we would be talking about Rob Blake as the worst GM currently in the NHL. So for me, the LA Kings, number one, you are the worst trade deadline loser.
Those some harsh words. The
Wow.
worst GM.
I
Right now,
wouldn't
that's
say
going for me.
that,
That's Barry
but
Trotz.
yeah.
I give Trotz some grace just because it's his first actual NHL trade deadline.
Well, that's
And
fair.
even though it didn't work out in the offseason, I loved his approach. Like, he was aggressive. He swung for the fence. He tried making a statement in his first offseason. And for that, because NHL GMs and the NHL by nature does not have balls like that, I give Barry Trotz a lot of credit. So I can't really kill him for it just not working out year one.
Well, that's interesting to note. You talk about Rob Blake because, I think he was one of those first sort of like hires, because this has been kind of a trend over the last couple of years where you have these teams trying to hire former players. I guess you can honestly say it started with Gretzky, but I guess, teams are trying to hire these players who try to shoehorn their way into certain type of roles. I guess it's different when it's kind of like the bigger grand scheme of things. So, Luc Robitaille is doing an okay job. The Kings are relevant, so that helps. But I mean, you do make a good point about Rob Blake, but then you can also bring up other instances like, early Joe Sakic as the GM of the Avalanche. Obviously, he redeemed himself by winning a Stanley Cup, but at the start, it seemed like he was on thin ice. No pun intended, of course. And then, obviously we look at Steve Yzerman, which I'm sure you'll mention at some point, Nick, but that's actually a good point about Rob Blake. I don't think he's criticized as much,
Yeah, I think he's really dodged a bullet. I don't know if it's because you have other guys when you just look in his division, you have Mike Greer and Pat Verbeek, and they're not exactly blowing your doors off as general managers. So I don't know if that shields him from some criticism, but I just have not enjoyed what LA has done. And it sucks because, I love watching Andrei Kopitar, and I think it's, he's in the twilight of his career now. And you look at Drew Doughty, he's in the twilight of his career. I just don't feel like I feel like he's doing a disservice to two of his greatest franchise players by not giving them a legit opportunity to go out there and chase another cup. But another huge loser, and this one comes all the way around. And I love saying it. It makes me smile for a couple of reasons.
Now I know which one he's going with.
Dude, the Carolina Hurricanes. You lose.
Yes.
Yep. Look, I think you slightly redeemed yourself getting Logan Stankoven and 2 firsts and a couple thirds. You have picks you can flip now, but just an unmitigated disaster. You get
He went for it though. Tulski went for it,
He
and I
went
will
for
defend
it.
Tulski, the leader of the nerds. All right.
See, and that's the other reason why I'm glad that like this failed on them, because
What do you mean it failed? He's been GM for what, 56 games?
well, no, the Rantanen thing failed. The experiment failed.
Well,
Uh,
well, just to
They traded
interject
an
real quick.
inconsistent, high ceiling player for somebody who had already hit his ceiling. It wasn't a fit because Brind'Amour is very tough to play for.
True.
It's a very specific system that you have to be a fit for. Rantanen wasn't it, so at
But I
least
mean,
he
that's
had
also
foresight to
on
cut
the
bait
coach
and get
too.
something out of it.
But I think that's on the coach too. You need, as a coach, yes, you have a system, and this is how we play, and we don't change. But when you have a player like Rantanen, who is a game breaker, which is what they've needed to put them over the top, when you don't allow that freedom for that superstar, then that's a failure on your organization. Like, as GM, Tulski has to go to Brind'Amour and say, look, I know we don't bend things. I know you like to roll 4 lines, but this dude plays 25 minutes a night. So if we can get him to around 23 minutes instead of dropping him to 18, you ruined his effectiveness.
But let me just
Fair.
interject with this then. That is a fair assessment, but being that this is his, I guess you want to say this is his first rodeo as kind of the leader of the helm, why does he not get the same sort of courtesy as Barry Trotz?
Oh,
Because clearly he's still trying to improve the team.
He is.
You know, and look, and it's not great, but I mean, at least he's somewhat trying, because you're getting beaten by the Devils and the Rangers the last 2 years in the playoffs. I would assume that you'd have to at least try to make some changes and look at things
last
differently.
3 years. 3 years.
Last
Rangers
3 years. That's right.
I will be 1,000% honest. It is because I am definitely biased in this effect. Dom Lucian loved the Tulski promotion, therefore I hated it right off the bat.
Hold on. Did you pronounce his name properly?
Yes.
I have not been able to figure out how to pronounce his name. I just call him Dom.
Dom L.
Well, I also
Dom
call
L.
him. I also call him Dom Losercision, especially when the Rangers beat the games, because it makes him cry. So anything,
wow, you really do have a grudge. Damn.
Yes,
wow.
I thought I was bad.
Because look, everybody knows I am not the biggest advanced stats fan. I use it. I use the analytics. I like analytics, but I use it in a vacuum as a totality. I do not like the be all end all that certain people have made it, and Dom is one of those people. So the fact that he loved the Tulski promotion made me just as much, and I can't stand Carolina either way. It just makes me want to see them fail that much more.
You should try focusing more on what Shayna writes, Shayna Goldman.
Oh,
She does an
excellent
amazing job of combining the stats with what you see on the ice and systems analysis, which is the one area that most people lack. Shayna's the only one I see that does it regularly and does it very well. So the thing with Carolina's system is everything goes to the net from the points and they crash the net. That's not Rantanen's style. And I feel like they should have known that, but they still swung for the fences with a high talent guy that they were trying to re-sign. We don't know how much of that $12 million that he got in Dallas was Carolina's owner, Tom Dundon, whatever. Thank you, Dundon. How much he said, no, I'm not paying a player that much, because we know Sebastian Aho had to sign an offer sheet in order to get money out of Carolina. So we don't know how much of that played a role here. And we know what owner meddling does. We're Ranger fans, thanks, Mr. Dolan.
Or as a Mets fan, you would know that.
Or as a Met fan, or as a as a New York sports fan.
Or as a Jet fan. Woody Johnson.
Yeah, New York sports fans. And there you go. We know what owner meddling is like. So maybe Tulski took a shot and was trying to re-sign him, but Rantanen was only getting an $8 million offer, and he's like, no. I can't blame him for that.
I don't think Rantanen. I think it worked out for Dallas, but I think Carolina also. I don't think he ever expected. He pretty much said it himself. He never expected to leave Colorado. So I think the shell shock of getting pretty much pushed out the door by Chris McFarland, and then there was the Four Nations break. like, to be fair, he never really got a chance to settle in to
That's
Raleigh.
fair.
Yeah.
I just, and then on top of that, in such a short time, he had to deal with, changing of the system and not getting as much ice time and all that kind of stuff. I think it was a bad look for Carolina, even though they tried. And honestly, I can say this: they pulled the New York Jets. They tried to do something right, and it worked out dramatically wrong. So, as Jet fans, JL
I
and I
mean,
feel that
at least
beyond
at least
belief.
Rantanen isn't in his own spaceship somewhere. Freaking Aaron Rodgers. I hate Aaron Rodgers with an undying passion because of what he pulled with the. Well, also he's just an asshole. I don't know if YouTube Live lets me do that. So,
well, you said it, so might as well.
We're about to find out.
I'm a heel at heart, so I love Aaron Rodgers. Like, the more you can make the media,
you would love Aaron Rodgers.
I didn't mind Rodgers. I didn't really care for a lot of the stuff that he said off the field. I just wanted him to play well, and he somewhat did that towards the end of the season. I just wanted
a little too late. Get the hell
well, yeah, but I also spent money on 3 Aaron Rodgers jerseys, so I mean, I kind of wanted my investment not to go somewhat in vain.
That is money very, very poorly spent.
I mean, just going to check games is money poorly spent.
Well, I do that too, so I mean, I'm not the soundest of decision makers here, at least. But
coming
but
from
no,
people that invest heavily in the New York Rangers.
Yeah. Well, clearly, as someone who invests in the Rangers and wearing my JT Miller jersey that came in right after President's Day, so
I thought that was a Trouba jersey.
Well, there's no C on it, but
sorry. I thought that was a Darren Turcotte jersey or
don't
a
worry,
Darryl Powell jersey.
No, this is a Darryl Powell. Yeah, you took the word.
Don't worry, in due time there will be a C on there.
Well, I'd rather it be an A. I'd rather Trocheck get the C. That's another point. Anyways, next team.
Next one is not actually a team. It's actually somebody I feel genuinely bad for.
And that would be?
Was involved in one of the biggest trades to start the day. Josh Norris. I feel really bad for Josh Norris.
Well, he went from Ottawa to Buffalo. That's a sideways move.
Well, it's not exactly much of an improvement.
It is very much backwards because at least Ottawa is contending for a playoff spot, and they've shown a willingness to try and get better. So he went from an organization that is trying to put their best foot forward, thanks to Eugene Melnick no longer owning the team, to a team that is hockey Chernobyl, who just can't seem to do anything right because they want to extend Jason Zucker instead of trading him for some unknown reason. I feel really bad for Josh Norris.
He'll live. The dude's getting how much money?
I mean, still, but if
a lot of money,
more than me.
If you're living in Buffalo, does the money feel that good? Food cannot taste as good. Drink does not taste as good. Does not satisfy.
That contract is brutal. Holy crap!
I mean,
he's got another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years at $7.95 million, and he can't stay on the ice.
That's the one problem with him is that he cannot stay healthy.
I did not know the contract was that long. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But his top end talent is undeniable.
My logic is undeniable. Sorry. Anytime somebody says undeniable, I go instant iRobot.
60% of the time it works every time. But feeling bad for
I'm sorry. I just have to appreciate the Anchorman quote right there.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
It works. I don't think that's right.
I don't think that Rick killed the guy.
But I mean, that whole scene kind of sums up the next team who's the biggest loser. And I mean, you can put this down every single year as biggest loser. It's the Buffalo Sabres. They have no identity. They have no clue what they're doing. Kevin Adams is literally lost. I mean, this is just, if Sabres...
That's poor ownership. That's a bad ownership group.
It's horrible ownership, but it's like, maybe it's the law of like the in New York, we have the law of the Garden with the Knicks and Rangers. Maybe this is just the law of Buffalo. If the Bills are good, the Sabres have to be bad.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because I frequent Buffalo a lot because one of my best friends is up there, so I visit from time to time. So I might have a little bit of a soft spot for the city. I mean, definitely a lot more than Pittsburgh. Anyone knows me knows what I'm talking about. But I do like Pittsburgh though, but not as much as I like Buffalo. So the people are genuinely nice there outside of Bill stuff, and I will say this in defense of at least the Sabres is if you always notice, or at least with the fans too, is that city is crying for a good team
Yeah,
because
that is very true.
they they if you look at the ratings for the playoffs, at least for the Stanley Cup final, like perfect example, you look at the ratings for the 2014 Stanley Cup final. So obviously it's New York number 1, LA number 2. You want to know what the number 3 one was? Buffalo. And
Buffalo.
their team is not even in it, and they're the third. They were the third most
They're
that
yeah,
watched.
but
So
there's also
that
nothing else to do up there.
True.
well, it depends on
I
what
mean,
you wanna
I
do,
went to
though.
Binghamton and I played hockey with a bunch of guys from Buffalo, and they basically said there's nothing else to do there. They were very passionate, very knowledgeable. They are great fans up there, and I feel bad for them,
Yeah.
especially because not only did they, in my opinion, lose that whole Cousins Norris swap, what was going on with those JJ Paterka rumors?
Oh,
That
that was
that was just
wild.
weird.
That was
Because it
weird.
wasn't just the Rangers in on it. If Paterka is available as a point per game 23-year-old winger, all 31 NHL teams are in on it.
Oh,
Mhm.
100%.
And I
But I
couldn't
think
figure out why they would do that.
so. I think that goes all the way back to just ownership, and I think because just from talking to people out there, especially my buddy who's really like in tune with it, when Terry Pagula bought the Sabres the year that they last made the playoffs, it seemed as if they were really going to invest a lot into the team. But what ended up happening is they saw that the Bills were way more profitable, so they began to really put their focus on
Of
that.
course they're
Kind of,
more profitable. It's
well, no,
football versus hockey.
right, no, absolutely. But Pagula has a hockey background to a degree, so my friend
And
at
apparently
least
a room temperature IQ, but whatever.
well, clearly. But I think what Pagula wants to do with the Sabres is he doesn't see it the way that the fans see it. And so he just kind of let it be. So obviously there was a lot of missteps. Like one of the biggest things that people were complaining about were when they had, I think it was their 50th anniversary, and the team ordered them fake knockoff jerseys for the alumni. That's just one of many sort of like sins you can. Yeah, no, that's true. That actually happened. They
He went to
gave
Fanatics.
no, no.
That's like when Dan Snyder did the Sean Taylor
Oh, he
uh
made it out of like that
the
sort of like
statue,
Oh
but it was like
yeah.
a
yeah,
mannequin. Yeah,
yeah.
just
Um, yeah. So like when you hear, and then like if you just look at like even the series against the Rangers in 2007. Look, I've been to KeyBank. It's it's due for some cleanup, for kind of tender love and care, but it's not a terrible arena. It's got great sight lines. It's a good
Yeah,
place
I
to
went
watch
there in
hockey.
like '05 or '06, somewhere in
Right,
that
and when
time frame.
the team is good, you get the turnout. Like I'll give another example, and this is elaborating on the discussion at hand. I went to a Buffalo Bandits game at the end of last year. That's lacrosse, if anyone doesn't know what that is. Those people, don't judge me, Dave. I see you. I see you, Dave. Don't judge me, okay?
I am no judgment here. I just didn't know
Listen,
people went to. I just didn't know people did it.
no,
I'm intrigued.
it's very big up there. And when I tell you those fans are passionate, they show up for the Bandits. And I guess I kind of became a Bandits fan because the only lacrosse team that we had here moved to Ottawa. So but just to touch back on the Sabres is that all they want is a team to be quasi competitive, and it kills me to see them kind of flail at every deadline. And it's because, and to circle back, is Terry Pagula is kind of an idiot. And you want to talk about the Paterka rumors. I think when it comes to Kevin Adams, I think they have a very similar dynamic that Dolan and Drury have, except I think Drury knows how to handle Dolan better than Adams does Pagula.
Drury
Because
communicates up very well. Down, not so
right,
much.
right. So the thing that I think of, and I always refer back to this, was when the apparently, and anyone can correct me on this, is when apparently the Rangers and the Sabres had a deal for Eichel in place. and I think that was beginning to pick up steam. But either
Nope.
or, the discussion was going
That was
on.
the rumor, and everybody had assumed that was the Pavel Buchnevich thing, where the Rangers
Right.
dealt Buchnevich, and then they panicked and re-signed Zibanejad to that awful
Well,
contract.
well,
They never actually had a deal in place with Buffalo. That was never a thing. I
well,
know that I thought it too, but it was never a thing.
Well, to the point is they were talking because
Mhm.
clearly for Jack Eichel, of course, and Terry Pagula basically told them not to deal, basically to tell the Rangers to go after themselves. So if you're that if you're that type of owner where it's very similar to the Wilpons with the Mets. If you're that type of owner who likes to put the kibosh on things that could potentially make your team better, granted, they ended up coming out like bandits on that deal after the fact, which I guess that was probably a stroke of luck. But you circle back to what you were talking about, Paterka. I think personally that I think Kevin Adams probably had one or two solid deals in place, and I think ownership meddled within it because it doesn't make sense if you have like two or three insiders saying yes, but then Arthur Staples saying no. Somebody else is saying yes, but then it's not. And
Yeah.
then you come today, there's still smoke, but nothing happens. I don't know.
So I'm
It's
trying
very
to figure
strange.
out what the Rangers could have offered that would entice Buffalo to say yes, based off of what they had and what was known to be available. So we figure Kreider could have been available. Maybe they would have forced Panarin to waive his no move, but I can't see that happening. Buffalo would want pieces to win now. So what from the Rangers could they have offered that would have been a realistic package? Zach Jones, sure, that's a
Brendan
given.
Hoffman.
Othman, but he's not a known entity, so maybe Berard, because at least he has more NHL success already.
I wouldn't say that. It probably would have had to involve. I probably would have thought it would have involved Lafreniere. Not that
That's
I
the only thing
want.
that I could think about that makes sense. But
Yeah,
would you really want to trade Lafreniere already?
no. I would have
I,
dealt Kreider before.
I would at least consider moving Lafreniere because
I would consider, but I don't know if Paterka is the guy
the,
I'd move him for.
the,
And I like Paterka.
the red flags about Lafreniere are back.
Well, I mean,
he signed his extension. Like it was the one thing I
that's
was
fair.
worried about. He signed his extension. Now he's looking like a guy who got paid.
yeah, but also at the same time with Lafreniere, you just can't let go of talent like that. I mean, we already saw what happened with Kako. I don't think it would have been a smart move. I mean, that's one of those players you really kind of have to just kind of go with the flow with, and hopefully in the off season he can refine his sort of engine again. Because I mean, we know what he can do, and at least for another season or two, you kind of should deal with it. So I don't think it would have been good with Paterka. But
Yeah.
next on your list, Nick.
We did so they're a playoff team. They're one of the best teams in the league, but I think they had an atrocious deadline because they didn't address what they needed to. The Winnipeg Jets, they so badly need a second line center, and I know the center market dried up after Brock Nelson, but I mean, I would have done whatever you needed to get Braden Shen. Braden Shen was a big driver on that St. Louis Blues team that won a cup. Rumor had it Ryan O'Reilly was available to be had. Those are just two options I can think of right off the top of my head. I mean, if you had Scheifele and ROR down the middle, and then you drop Nemestikov down, and you have Adam Lowry as your third line center, that's a team that can win a Stanley Cup. Because
So
I
Nemesnikov isn't that bad. Like I'm
No, he's
looking
really
at some
not.
of his numbers. He's fine, but he's a guy that you probably, like you said, Nick, want him on the third line, not the second line.
Well, it's probably similar to how we view Trocheck, or at least Zibanejad. It's kind of similar, where you want someone to kind of be in between one of those guys. I mean, obviously we have JT Miller now, but I mean, you could find a way to throw Trocheck on line 3, if anything.
I this is like a decade ago at this point, but it was when everybody thought Brian Boyle could be the third line center for the Rangers. Like, no.
I remember
When the
that.
Rangers are a Stanley Cup contender, Brian Boyle is your fourth line center. So Nemesnikov is probably your third line center. I don't know what that would equate to for the Rangers today because Trocheck is still very close to a point per game player as a second line center, and the Rangers do need a third line center.
Yeah.
Nemestikov would look good again as a Ranger. Maybe we could flip JT Miller for him again.
Oh no, let's not do that. Please stop that.
Wait, we're getting Brett Howden back? He's won a Stanley Cup at least.
Brett
I
Howden
will.
has quietly discovered himself in Vegas.
I will say this. Yes, he has. I will say this, and I'm not embarrassed to admit this. I was one of the very big proponents of Brett Howden. That's actually one of the reasons why I like the trade initially. I've kind of changed my tune on it, but Dave's looking at me with he's like, "What the hell's the matter with this guy?" So I have this problem. Well, I have lots of problems, but I have this
Is this
problem.
a problem?
I have this problem where whenever the Rangers trade for a young guy or they draft someone, I like to look at their junior highlights. Naturally, I'm sure everybody does that. But when I used
No.
to write for another publication who shall not be named, I had to do a profile on Brett Howden. And what's the one thing the Rangers were always having trouble finding are good two-way centers down the middle. And I thought, wowzers, this guy this guy could be a good fit, and then for some reason it just did not work out here. So
If
I
it
will
makes you
say,
feel any better, I was a big proponent of Libor Hayek. I thought he was a
oh, me
smooth
too.
skating
Oh, me
defenseman
too.
who had a good first pass, and then he just Hayeked himself
Well,
out of I don't know where the hell he went anymore.
Well, I'll say this about Libor. I was at the game he scored his first goal,
Oh,
and he
against the
looked
Devils.
against the Devils. Yeah, and he was wearing number 43.
Yep.
And I remember I was with my buddy, and I was telling him, I said, this kid's going to be legit. He can skate. And then he got killed. And he was never the same after that. If you can recall, he got hurt because he was like okay
Yep.
in Hartford. He did reasonably well in the NHL. Everyone, I forget what Twitter personality we all disliked at the time had said, "Oh, we should have brought him up. He's looked a lot better now as a Ranger than he did in Hartford." And I don't know, he just was never the same after that. But I was with you on that. But yeah, Winnipeg. Yeah, sorry,
I mean,
forgot
I
where
like
we're going.
I like getting Tanev. I like getting Luke Shen. I think they got better there. I don't know, man. To me, you're not winning a Stanley Cup if Vlad Nemesnikov's your second line center.
I don't have them pegged.
Mm,
It's Dallas for me out of the West. Even Edmonton, I'm a little bit surprised they didn't do much.
well,
I
I
think
think
it's
also
Dallas
just
or Colorado.
well,
And they're going to meet in the first or the second round, right? Dallas and
Yeah,
Colorado in the same
thanks,
division.
more than
thanks for
likely.
this
This
stupid
playoff
playoff
format
format.
sucks. I hate this playoff format. We're going to have all the best series in the first or the second round. We're going to have the worst conference finals ever.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're going to have a Metro team facing either Florida or Tampa.
Well,
Yeah, that's going to
Oh,
go.
that's
it'll
always
be
the
good.
case.
The Rangers against Florida, Tampa. So we'll have another rematch of an old conference final. Oh, sorry.
No, the Rangers are going to wind up in the Atlantic in the first round. They're going to get the winner of the Atlantic if they make the playoffs.
Well,
So
There's
we're
no
gonna
way
get
they're getting
Toronto.
the second. There's no way they're getting the top wild card seed. They're getting the second wild card.
So we're gonna
No,
play Toronto.
it's okay. The Rangers are going to be the
Or
third
Florida.
seed. They're going to be the
Florida.
third seed in the Metro by the end of the year.
Oh, you think New Jersey's gonna fall apart?
look,
The Devils free fall will continue.
Did they lose tonight?
They are losing 4-1 with under 7 minutes to go against Winnipeg.
I
So
love it.
yeah, that free fall. If the Rangers win this weekend, the Rangers are going to be looking at the top three in the Metro. But the biggest loser one of the biggest losers, the Eyes are playing. Can somebody tell me what it is? Because I sure as hell don't know, and I don't think Stevie Y does either. Detroit, you have to make the playoffs this year, and you do. I'm going to check my notes here. Nothing. So,
well, they didn't. They traded for Peter Mrazek. I think that was it.
Yeah, they gave up Joe Veleno for nothing.
But why? Why would you get what?
I just
I don't know what Yzerman's doing, and the fact that he got rid of Wallman as a cap dump, and then Wallman gets traded for a first-round pick, just shows you maybe we missed the mark on his run in Tampa. There was something else there. Maybe it was a better scouting department, but I'm going to go with scouting department because Tampa is still killing it. And Detroit, honestly, between Detroit and the Devils, I don't know which team is going to free fall harder right now.
Yeah. All right. So what's the next category that you have, Nick?
All right, so then we have the winners, and I'm gonna start it off. I love what the Ottawa Senators did today. I love getting Dylan Cousins out of the cesspool of Buffalo, and not only that, they got the Sabres to include a second rounder. Yeah, they went dollar in, dollar out on that deal. But, not now.
Oh.
Oh, look at that. Wow. Look at that.
I was the one worried about my kids coming in.
God, they went
This is
dollar.
live. This is live
this is
television,
live.
folks.
Oh, my nephew.
All right, who's next on your list, Nick?
Florida Panthers have
Yes.
to
Oh,
be
clearly,
Brad
Absolutely.
Marchand for
clearly.
pennies on the dollar, pretty much.
Yeah.
And now you have the most annoying and hateful team in the
Oh.
entire league.
What was the line? It was Kachuk, Marchand, and was it Bennett?
Bennett.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I will say this though about
Jeez.
that trade. I think Florida took the whole rats on ice thing a little bit too literally, adding Brad Marchand.
Yeah, they're just gonna have to. They're gonna throw Marchand bobbleheads on the ice now.
Yeah, just absolutely unreal. I mean, that's great work by Bill Zito.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for aggressive GM, so Bill Zito,
Well,
way to go.
Bill Zito is what Steve Yzerman wants to be. But anyways, next.
The Colorado Avalanche, Chris McFarland. You made,
Yep.
I did not like the Mikko Rantanen trade, but you redeemed yourself. Charlie Coyle, Brock Nelson, you really addressed yourself down the middle. So I love what Colorado did. I mean, they also added
minus adding Ryan Lindgren, of course.
I disagree. I think
I wanted to trigger you. Yes,
I know.
Yes,
I like adding Ryan Lindgren. He's going to be there 4-5, and he's going to kill penalties. And
well, we all know he's going to do well there. Like we all know
Lindgren will be fine there. It was usage that was the issue here, and for some reason, every head coach that the Rangers had wanted to put Lindgren in a top line role. Top pairing role, where he just wasn't that guy anymore.
No.
And I appreciate loyalty, especially to a guy like Lindgren, who's been an absolute warrior for the Rangers. You can't keep doing this. Look what happened to Girardi, to Stahl, to Nick Holden, to insert defenseman here.
It's overvaluing. It's falling in love with your own players.
And they can't keep, and it's also falling in love with old reliable. Emphasis on old. It's not reliable anymore, especially when Fox is still playing on one knee.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right. So let's see if we could round out that list, Nick, and then let's just kind of touch on some of the moves that the Rangers made before we finish up here.
Montreal winner. They didn't do anything stupid. I think keeping Jake Evans was a good move. You're in the playoff race. You didn't add. You didn't subtract. But so you still showed your team that you believe in them by keeping one of your own guys. I like that. Solid move. Toronto, I think they overpaid for Scott Lawton, but I like what they did getting Brandon Carlo and Scott Lawton. You became a lot tougher to play against, which is something we've never said about the Maple Leafs. So,
and they also addressed their depth. That was the huge problem with Toronto. They had their core 4 or 5, however many that was. And they were nothing aside from them.
Yep.
And now they actually have a deeper lineup. That Atlantic Division is the Metro Division from last year.
Yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Oh, man. And some team from the Metro, whoever comes out of the Metro, is going to take advantage of whatever team comes out of that broken and bad.
Yeah.
Dallas, Mikko Rantanen.
Clearly.
Say less. That's all. Tampa Bay, Julian Brisebois, Bjorkstrand, Yanni Gord loading up again, getting the band back together. We all laughed when he brought back Ryan McDonough. But I mean, Jake Gensel's fit in like a glove. You don't have to do much to fit in with Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point. But I like what Brisebois doing. Screw them picks. My what are they doing? I have 2 teams: the Preds and the Penguins.
And the Islanders.
And the Islanders.
And the Islanders. I don't know really what they're doing.
The Islanders are just funny. They made a fantastic trade with Brock Nelson, and then they go and they re-sign everybody over the age of 40.
Yeah,
Right.
Lou
Makes sense.
Lamoriello is just an absolute gem. I love him because he has these moments of clarity. He's like that he goes and he makes the Brock Nelson trade, and then he goes full old man yells at Cloud and goes, "I'm going to re-sign Kyle Palmieri. I'm going to have a $17 million fourth line." And like we covered Nashville already. The third team was
Detroit. Detroit was also the.
Oh yeah, Detroit was just
Wow.
I just What are we doing? You know, but then probably my favorite category, the okay, what's next? I'm going to leave the Rangers for last. I like what Boston did, minus the return for Marchand. I think the return for Marchand sucked.
Waving the white flag.
But I mean, they got Henry Yokiharu, they got Casey Middlestat, they brought them in. I like those moves. So you got a little bit younger. You're trying to address your need down the middle. So I mean, we just touched on the Islanders, the New Jersey Devils. They got Daniel Sprong, they got Brian Dumoulin.
They're piecing it together with all those injuries. Jack Hughes, he's not even going to be ready for the playoffs.
Band-aids for a wound. That's how I see it.
The Chicago Blackhawks.
Yep.
I thought the Blackhawks kind of screwed up today. I would have traded Ryan Donato, capitalize on that. I mean, I know you got to put players around Bedard, but you've already seen it's not working. You shipped out Seth Jones. You got Spencer Knight. Good job. I really want to see what's next there in Chicago. Because they need some help. My personal favorite, the Vancouver Canucks. I've never seen a general manager do what Patrick Allvin did today, talking about a player who's still on his active roster. And I just enjoy how the Vancouver Canucks just attract chaos. So
they're like the Jets of hockey.
Yes,
the New York
they
Jets
really
of
are.
hockey.
That's a great comparison.
That's actually a good comparison. They're like the New York Jets of hockey because it doesn't matter what the Canucks do. They just always seem to have issues.
They are just embroiled in chaos forever. And I mean, you're going to lose Brock Besser in the summer. There's no doubt about it. You have to trade Elias Pettersson at this point. Yeah, I really want to see what's next. Yeah. I mean,
Pettersson
honestly,
is 1,000% going to Carolina. We all know this, right?
Probably.
Oh, Dave,
and I mean,
no.
He's going to Carolina. He is a Tulsky guy. You know it. You know it. Tulsky, by the way, is an absolute gem of a person. Like, way back when he was still doing all the spreadsheets, I reached out to him. I wanted to help with the zone entry tracking. Nick is frozen on my end, I think. Or you were just in that position.
I am very attentive. I'm just paying attention. I'm paying attention.
You were just like so no, Tulsky, he's a great guy, and Pettersson is right up his alley, and he's going to be able to get Pettersson.
I hate that so much because Pettersson's one of my favorite non-Rangers. But hold
on. Now I'm going to make a prediction. Let me look at Carolina's roster real quick. There they are, Carolina. So I am going to go with Kakaniemi. Or however you pronounce his freaking name.
Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, that. A first round pick. Honestly, that might be no, they need to add one more piece. They need to add something good.
I mean, maybe Vancouver takes an L on that. Maybe.
They might have to, because that knee injury is a huge concern.
Well, that and his no trade kicks in on July 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they're not going to trade Slavin or Walker. They just got them. No, there's got to be somebody young that they're going to. Well, whatever his name is only
Kotkaniemi.
Yeah,
Kotkaniemi.
It doesn't make sense trading for him when they have Hedel.
But if they're going to move Hedel up in the lineup, Hedel is killing it over there.
He is. No, he's playing very well.
So they move Hedel up. They put him into the top six. They take Jesperi and they put him in the middle six. No, I refuse. I absolutely refuse. No. Jesperi.
near me. It's not that hard, blog father.
Nowhere near Berlin.
All right, so let's
Berlin.
let's jump into the Rangers now because I feel like that's at the
Hey,
point
you
where we're
made out
at.
with your sister.
Oh, goodness gracious! Just when I thought we weren't going to throw a bunch of, we didn't throw a bunch of movie references last time. We got them on this one. Thank you for
Well,
those watching.
I
live.
mean, you gave me the opportunity with
I
trying to
did.
help me pronounce nowhere near Berlin.
I did. That is correct. Anyway, so
Honestly, I'm
before
gonna
we
start calling him that now.
so before we get sidetracked with movie quotes, before we end this live stream, which also thank you to everyone who's actually sitting here and watching us ramble on. This has been fun. The Rangers. So just in a nutshell, obviously they reacquired JT Miller. They traded for Carson Soucy. They got rid of Ryan Lindgren. Calvin DeHaan, Yusel Parsonen, and a couple other moves. Just your thoughts on just how the team made out their look, just how they look right now, and just kind of what maybe Drury should have done, what he shouldn't have done. Just your overall thoughts on some of the moves they made overall.
I personally like what Drury did.
Yeah.
It takes it takes a lot of balls to be a general manager and be able to look at your roster and be like, this isn't it, and tear it down, but tear it down in a constructive way, which is what he's done. He's completely reshaped the blue line, which when Adam Fox comes back, I'm excited to see how it looks.
Mhm.
I think keeping Zach Jones, at least for the time being, is an excellent move. And I mean, Zach Jones has to be counting his lucky stars that Fox got hurt, because if not,
Yeah.
he was not going to be playing and he would
Mhm.
definitely have been shipped out of here.
Yeah.
So
On that topic, I got a question for both of you. Did Zach Jones play his way possibly into Braden Schneider's spot?
I
I
would
think he
say
might have played
yes.
it. I think he played it in the Keandre Miller spot.
You hate
I
DeAndre Miller, which is
Yeah,
hilarious to
no.
me.
The
But
reason
DeAndre
why
Miller
I
is
don't
a huge trade piece for them. I think he
yeah.
is.
So I think just to touch quickly on that, um I think Miller I think one of the reasons why Jones was not dealt because I think Miller will get a bigger return in the summer, but I also think they want to kind of see how how all these guys will do, because Susie's going to be retained for next year, and I think the team wants to try and package a defenseman with a forward for like a center or another scoring winger
Yeah,
or something
they
like that.
need a center.
So
That's the one thing they didn't
yeah,
at this deadline, and that's what's going to keep them from being a true contender to make a run to, say, the Eastern Conference Final and whoever survives that gauntlet.
I
They if they got a third line center, they could uh, easily beat Carolina, the Devils, or Washington. I think all three of those teams are very overrated, and the only reason why they're in the spot they're in is because the Rangers absolutely imploded on themselves because they quit on themselves earlier in the year.
yeah,
I still believe right now with how the blue line is, because the blue line is no longer a turnover machine. And now the Rangers have shown the last couple of games that they can defend rush chances, and they're not surrendering nearly as much in their own zone. And I think they've even gotten better offensively. I
Because
mean,
they get the puck out of the damn zone too.
yeah. I
that
know, it's
helps. And
nice.
It's
you
fun to
see,
watch.
It
well,
really
I mean,
is.
I think you've seen JT Miller kind of drag Mika Zibanejad into the fight and say, dude, if we're gonna do
Yeah.
anything, I need you. So
Mhm.
start
Don't
shooting.
discount his move to wing too. It makes life a lot easier for Zibanejad.
100%.
That's right.
So I think when you look at the Rangers right now, I think they can right now beat New Jersey, Carolina,
Oh, 100%.
or the Capitals in the playoffs. I was telling Chris today, I'm like,
Yeah.
look, Igor turns around and we know what he can do in the playoffs. You get a healthy Adam Fox back with a defender like Carson Soucy, who I personally like. I think you're going to see Soucy really turn around and be the Soucy that was in Seattle and not the one that was in Vancouver.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Deployment there
fair.
is going to matter a lot
I
because he was getting all those
yeah.
defensive zone starts in
I
Vancouver, and he's not going to get that with the Rangers. That's going to
yeah,
matter.
I definitely was not thrilled with that, but then I kind of did a little bit of my research and I noticed that it seems like this season's a bit of an outlier. So I mean, I'm eager to see how this ends up turning out for them, honestly.
Yeah,
And
I
when
was
you
very
look
grumpy yesterday when all those trades happened because I didn't sleep. So I put that in the thoughts post this morning. I'm like, guys, I barely slept. Cut me some slack. All right, I don't do well when I don't sleep.
I will say
look
this
at
though,
you,
just to interject real quick, because I want to make sure I say this before I forget. I mean, he hasn't done too much on the score sheet, but Yusuf Parsonen's a really nice little player for them because if you
Nice
notice,
4C, fourth line
right, but
center,
you have Sam Carrick. I mean, you
fourth
can
line
survive.
winger. I mean,
Yeah, but you can survive with Parsonen there for now. I mean,
over
just this.
Brodzinski, absolutely.
Yeah, over Brodzinski because, or even with Brodzinski because Brodzinski could play a decent.
Kreider returning will take Brodzinski out of the lineup.
Right, but
You
that dude's
assume it's
got
going to be what Kreider, Parsonen. Who's the other winger? Help me out
it's
here.
Hoffman.
Othman. Yeah. Oh, that'll be a fun line actually.
Yeah, so all like two out of the three on that line will have a motor, and I've been very
Mhm.
impressed with
Yeah,
Parson in
Parsonen
terms of
and
just
Hoffman.
his. Yes, I
Yeah.
mean, and
Really?
Hoffman is.
Really? You can hate Kreider all you want. You can't tell me he doesn't have a motor. He's one
No,
of the
like
best guys in the
No,
league.
he does selectively. You know, there are times
Collectively.
where he
If we
shows
get
it.
one different puck bounce last year, we're having a whole different conversation about
that is
Kreider,
true.
and
Yes,
we're talking
we
about
are.
him with Messier. One puck
Mhm.
bounce against
That's
Florida.
right.
Oh, don't give me the.
No, he's Dave is right. Dave is definitely right. That whole Florida series was puck bounce going one way or the other.
That's going to get
Definitely.
clipped by somebody.
It was so bad.
Me probably.
Barkley Goodrow was better than Chris Kreider last year in the playoffs. I said what I
Barclay
said.
Goodrow shot 400%, and Kreider saved us against Carolina.
Yeah, but
Kreider is the only reason why we survived against
but
Carolina.
he showed up
I-
for one period. He showed up for one period in that series.
That's
And that period mattered, did it?
It was a huge period, but that's why I get on him though, because if
he looked good in the Washington series.
if he brings his
Everybody looked good
motor,
in the Washington series.
if he
Yeah.
brings his motor every night, he could do stuff like that, and that's where I get angry with him.
That's fair, but you can't tell me he's a brutal player when you know what he's done, especially in the playoffs. I did that whole biggest moment of the Rangers playoffs during that, that whole run, and like half that bracket was Kreider scoring overtime winners.
I mean, no, he
Yeah.
It's like Panarin isn't a big game player, and he's got a series winner and an overtime winner against Carolina.
he scores. Kreider scores in big moments. My whole thing is, I need that more nights. I need it consistently. I don't need I'm going to show up when I want to. That's what gets me aggravated with him.
I guess, but I mean,
That's fair. And listen, it's a fair discussion. I would have loved to have this conversation about Kreider if the Rangers didn't implode on themselves in November and December. Getting all butthurt over a trade memo, which was a fair memo.
But see, I feel like he was at the center of that because his name was in it.
We don't know, so that's speculation.
I'm and I will speculate that till the end of time.
Well, look, I'll just say this. I'll say this too, just to touch on that. They've been able to win with him despite everything, and you notice they did get better when they got rid of Trouba. They got rid of when they got rid of Kakko. They got better.
It's not getting rid of Kakko; it's adding Borgen.
That too. No, of course.
Splitting hairs, but yeah, I think
Borgen was
a
right.
better deal.
You're right.
They also got better with Kreider out of the lineup.
Goodness gracious.
I'm going to reach through the screen and strangle you.
I'm telling you, man. Look at the record.
Okay.
The record
well, they also are better without Lindgren in the lineup. So
fair.
Potato. But anyways, any final thoughts on just the Rangers, what they did on this deadline?
Ketchup.
Easy there, Mr. Burns. Okay, relax.
Hey, yes, Barry, calm down.
Listen, don't try. I cannot pronounce names. I own it. I am owning it. I cannot pronounce these names. David. You should have. First off, you guys are calling him what? Shillington. I thought it was Kylington forever.
Oh my gosh,
that's fair.
I'm not good at this.
When he first came up, I thought it was Kylington too. Until it was
Coat.
It was
like
It's still
winter
Kylington.
coat.
It's Kakaniemi.
There you go.
It
Hey,
is
there you go. There you go. Perfect.
Tussie,
You can say it that
not
way too.
Tussie.
That's
It is
fine.
Tussie, as in like tomato sauce. I don't care.
Wait, hold on. Before we end, I just have to show this exclusive
Oh.
photo of Dave.
Oh,
This is Dave, everybody. This is Dave, and this is me reacting to Dave whenever he says something. So
you have a lot more gray hair in that picture than I do. So
yes. Well, of course, shout out to Jon Stewart. Anyways,
also, do not insult Jon Stewart. He's our most important Jew.
I love Jon Stewart. What are you talking
Just
about?
making sure. And nobody caught the Family Guy quote.
I was
So
gonna-
Yeah,
I was gonna-
yeah.
that alone.
No, I knew.
I was gonna say
just
you're
wanted to
knocking
do-
Adam Sandler down like the power rankings.
Jon Stewart, number 1. Adam Sandler, number 2. Ryan Reynolds, number 3. He's an honorary Jew.
Interesting.
Okay,
I
on that
love
note,
Ryan Reynolds. I think he's amazing.
I would have
love
had
him.
Sandy
Right.
Koufax at number 3, but that's just me.
I'm a Yankee fan. Was a Yankee fan before
Larry
the Aroldis
King?
Chapman stuff.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that's a good time to kind of
No.
end this here. So,
All right. Before we end it, I want one prediction from
okay.
you guys. How far do the Rangers go this season?
Conference finals.
Wow.
I think this is the year they're going to get into some luck. I kind of feel, I could be wrong. You could clip this. Anyone seeing this, you could clip this, quote me, put my name on a billboard, face on a billboard. I don't care. I think this is the year they might luck into something. I think they make it to the conference final.
I mean, you guys can radio me on this one, but I think a lot of people are kind of counting them out, and rightfully so. They haven't done anything to earn anybody's trust. But I like reshaping the blue line. I think they're better. JT Miller is a dog in the playoffs, and I mean he showed it in one of the toughest markets to play in Vancouver. The way he's got Zibanejad playing, and I just feel like Panarin here is due to break out and wake up. And if that line gets rolling, man, and look, I love our fourth line, Rempe, Carrick, even Brodzinski, Berard, like.
But also Adam Edstrom should be coming back.
And Edstrom
is going to come back, yeah.
I think that fourth line's a true energy line, and I think they can become a true checking line too. Yeah, I think Washington is riding. Everyone is playing at their best in 1 year while Ovi's chasing a record. New Jersey, I don't believe in without Jack Hughes, and I think Carolina's super overrated. I've thought that for years. I really think the Rangers can make a conference final run, especially with Igor.
I will say they get the top wild card spot. They pass Columbus, which means they get Washington in the first round. I think they beat Washington, but lose to Carolina in the second round.
I need another Caps Rangers series. Like I need a hole in my head.
I need
another Canes Rangers series. Like I need a hole in my head.
I hate this playoff format. I hate it. They need to change this up. I can't do this anymore.
Death, taxes, and the New York Rangers beat the Carolina Hurricanes in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
That's right. I'm with you on that.
I mean, it's just these are things that will always happen.
Now that you said that, if my prediction comes true, where they get the second wild card spot and they beat Washington, but they lose to Carolina, if that happens, we're gonna have another one of these live streams where everybody gets to make fun of you.
I mean, that's fair.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I mean, that's not going to happen because the Rangers are going to be Metro spot number 3. And they're going to play Carolina.
And they're going to lose to Carolina in the first round?
No, they're going to beat Carolina in the first round, beat Washington in the second round, and will then lose to Brad Marchand and the rest of the Rats in Florida in the Eastern Conference Final.
Can we just have, can we just have something good?
How do you keep switching to the Abe Simpson thing? How do you keep doing that?
It's called, I have the control panel here, Dave.
I have it too.
Yeah. It's under the overlay. I also have this photo here of regular show for some reason with Benson driving a bus, but Anyways, thank you guys for coming on. It's we didn't get a chance to have Chris and Rob on here. They've had some other commitments, so we'll hope to have them on for another live stream sooner
Putting
than
their
later.
kids to bed and making
But
sure their ankles heal.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but there you
Yeah.
go. Chris is old apparently, and Rob is doing parent duty.
Chris is
so
very old and
I
very
mean,
brittle.
might be older than Dave.
No, he's younger than Dave. He's younger than Dave.
You know what?
Sorry.
I may be the oldest, but I look the youngest. All right.
Actually,
I am going to be 41 in a couple of weeks, and I'm looking at, JL, you look like you're 80, and Nick, I mean, sorry.
Well, just to put it in perspective, last night I went out with a couple of people, and one of the guys went to the bar.
Did they all have wheelchairs?
Well, no, dude. The guy went to the bar to get us car bombs, which I was not a fan of. I'm too old for that shit. And he tells the bartender, "Yeah, I want 3 car bombs." And the bartender goes, "Well, I need to see your ID." And he goes, "Who are the other 2 for?" He's like, "Oh, they're sitting at the table." He looks over at me and he goes, "Yeah, I don't need to see their ID." His ID. I was like, man, alive.
Well, also, I mean, when you go to a bar and you order a car bomb, a Jaeger bomb, or like a Bud Light or a Red Bull vodka, you're really telling the bartender, I don't know what I'm drinking, so you should card me. Spozo, thank you for joining. Really,
yes, I was
really
just about to point
all
that
the
out.
support
Yes.
throughout the years. You've been amazing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Spozo. Appreciate you watching, and we also appreciate.
Or is it
everyone else that's
Spazo
doing it.
or Spoza?
Spaza.
I don't know. Apparently, I mispronounce everything.
Clearly, Coat Ka Niemi. Anyways, on that note,
the closer you lean to the mic, the creepier you look. Don't you have one of those creepy vans that you drive for work too? This ain't helping you.
Actually, I do, but it's a big white van. It has all my work equipment in it.
Yeah, it's a creepy, rapey van, and you're getting closer to the mic. It's weird.
Welcome to NPR Late Night. I am JL.
All right, we have to cut this off.
Anyways.
JL's losing his mind.
All right, well, thank you guys for coming on again. We appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's watched, who is watching, and who will watch, and we'll have this up on our audio platform soon enough. We'll get Rob and Chris back here at some point, but this is our trade deadline reaction live stream. Glad that we're all able to do it, and we'll talk to you guys next week on Live from the Blue Seats. Good night, everybody.